driver, Rodney Hinton Jr., is the father of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, who was shot and killed by Cincinnati police Thursday.
So that is currently under investigation by both our homicide unit as well as the traffic unit.
Police say Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder.
Okay, so this is a crazy case, and I can, see both sides of this thing. You have a guy named Ryan Hinton, and you have a man named Rodney Hinton Jr. And Ryan Hinton is the son. Rodney Hinton Jr. is the father. So this happened on Thursday, and I want to show you the video of the shooting here in just a second. The father, okay, so the son is going to get shot and killed. He's going to get shot and killed, and they said that it was involved in a stolen vehicle. The guy had a gun, and while it didn't look like he pointed the gun at anybody, but he had the gun in his hand, he's running away. So let's just, at the beginning, let's presume the father is in the right. So his son just got shot and murdered by the police. While Rodney Hinton Jr. is driving, he sees a police officer who is directing traffic, and he runs him over. And then he eventually crashes himself, and he's in critical condition. Justice is eye for an eye. When I think about the things that all the politicians are going to say, the politicians all say a whole bunch of different things, okay? So let's listen to what the politicians had said.
Says in part, the investigation is ongoing, but if the facts show this act was intentional, as the charge suggests, I will throw the full force of the law at the perpetrator.
Okay, so he's sickened by the intentional act of violence. He's sickened by the intentional act of violence. So if he's sickened by that intentional act of violence, well, Ryan Hinton was murdered. He should be sickened by that, correct? He's sickened by what appears to be an intentional act of violence. Ryan Hinton, he just got shot and killed by the police, but they were sitting in a stolen vehicle. And when the police pulled up on them, it looked like 4 men were sleeping in the stolen vehicle that was stolen. This is in Cincinnati that this had happened, and the car was stolen out of northern Kentucky. So, while justice is eye for an eye, I think I ultimately conclude that it wasn't justified because he stole a fucking car. He stole a fucking car. So, this is a crazy case because I could understand a father's love for his son, and he saw that the police had just killed his son, and so, in his eyes, he thought that by killing a police officer, that would somehow add some balance into the world. His grief was also recent. He was just mourning it just happened. They also said that the police officer was retired and that he was a special police officer who was just working. So I'm only taking the position of Rodney Hinton Jr. at first because that's what it felt like to me. Let's keep on going, because ultimately I conclude something a little bit different. He's not justified. He's not justified because the son was stealing a car. Does that ultimately mean that he should be shot? No, it doesn't. But the guy's got a gun in his hand. Did he point the gun at the officers? No, he didn't. He didn't point the gun at the officers. When he's running, the gun is in his hand and he falls down and the gun scrapes the concrete. And then he runs away, and then as he's running through the dumpsters, the guy said, "Get down." Yeah, you're going to get down. So it's almost like the guy didn't want to chase him. But the guy had a gun in his hand. So if you have a gun in your hand, you've already pulled the gun, Does that suggest lethal intent? It suggests that it would be easy to just turn around and shoot the gun, and maybe if only to escape, but it wouldn't take much to just take a gun that's in your hand and just kind of quickly turn around.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine issued a statement a short time ago saying in part, quote, "I have been briefed on the ongoing investigation and am sickened by what appears to be an intentional act of violence."
Okay, so that was the governor saying he was sickened by the intentional. The prosecutor said he was going to throw the full force of law, at the perpetrator. If there is a police shooting that's unjustified, like say Sonia Massey or say like Breonna Taylor, if there's a shooting that's just completely unjustified, do any of these politicians say the same thing? Does the prosecutor say that they're going to throw the full force of the law? Does the governor say that he's sickened by the intentional act of violence?
We offer our sincere condolences to the deputy's family, friends, and colleagues. And we're hearing from State Attorney General Dave Yost saying in part, "This loss, so close to the annual remembrances, is a cool reminder of the many officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. The officers who protect our communities day in and day out are heroes."
Okay, so when I think about what the politicians had said, now here is a picture of Rodney Hinton Jr. So this is the father right here, and this is the son. So the father is going to essentially run over a totally innocent police officer that had nothing to do with the situation, that wasn't the guy that pulled the trigger, wasn't the guy that pulled the gun and shot and killed his son. It was just some member of the police, the Cincinnati police. I saw another picture. Rodney the animal. Hinton, is that the same guy? I don't know. You have like some sort of YouTube video here. There was I saw he was a football player. Okay, so Ryan Hinton. I saw that Ryan Hinton was a football player. Where did I see that at? So, okay. I can understand that a father is grieving for his son. Let's watch some of this.
So to give you an idea, this is 2500 Warsaw. I'm going to step out in front for a minute. Warsaw Avenue is down here. This is the long driveway. It goes up a hill. Where the incident occurred is at the dead end of the parking lot back here. You'll see vehicles there now. You'll see a photo of the stolen car.
So this is the press conference. This is the press conference of the shooting of Ryan Hinton, the son.
So why do so many homes in the U.S. need a flooring replacement? The number one reason is not about...
As you can see, this is a stolen Kia. It was stolen out of northern Kentucky yesterday.
So they find the stolen vehicle, and then you see the police, they got the front bumper into it, so they're not going to allow the vehicle to drive straight. They use GPS to find it, and so they're not going to be able to just, drive it straight out of there. I guess they could have gone in reverse, but it's a wooded area back there.
You can see we have two uniformed cars there. Prior to those uniformed cars arriving, we had two undercover cars that pulled into that dead end, saw the vehicle. They backed out. They saw that there were individuals inside the vehicle, so they backed out and let the uniformed cars make the approach, which is the tactically sound decision to do. The cars are positioned the way the officers are trained. We are trained to use our vehicles as cover from any threat. That's what those officers did with the cars at that time. This is body-worn camera from officer number 2. Go ahead, Bobby.
He's got a gun! He's got a gun! On your right! On your right! He's got a gun!
So just to give you an idea, we have the two uniformed cars. We have two officers. There's 4 individuals in the stolen vehicle. All 4 individuals get out and start running, some in different directions. So officers decide which individual they're going to pursue. One officer decides to pursue the individual who we now know had a firearm in his hand. The other officer pursued another occupant that fled from the vehicle. And that'll be significant here in a moment when you see. So this is a still image. Again, I'm going to step out front. The car is parked over this way, okay? They are chasing the the individual. So officer number 1 is chasing this guy right here. Okay, this is the guy we ultimately end up shooting. The other officer, who actually fires the shot on this individual, is chasing a different individual further out this way, in this direction. Okay? As this officer is chasing him, he sees a firearm in his hand, and he yells, "Gun, gun, he's got a gun." This individual slips, trips, whatever, falls on the concrete right here. Other officers that were also there say in their interview, they heard the firearm hit the concrete. They heard the metal from the firearm hit the concrete. This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand, and continues to run through the dumpsters. Go ahead, Bobby.
So something that I noticed there, okay, they do point out that he has a gun, and he does have a gun. So I'll give him all that. I'll give them all that. She doesn't say Ryan Hinton. She doesn't say his name. She says, "Go ahead, Bobby." So Bobby gets a name, but Ryan Hinton doesn't get a name. Why can't you just say Ryan Hinton, you know? So Ryan Hinton was in a stolen car. So why were 4 people inside a stolen car? Oh, they don't know how it was stolen or what had happened. I guess technically the driver could be the one that would know. I guess they all could pretend that they didn't know. Who knows exactly who was involved in stealing the car? And is it possible somebody could have stole the car and then hung out with some of his buddies and they were all sleeping? I mean, that sounds crazy to me. You're in a stolen car and then you are 4 of you in a car and you're sleeping inside the car. You know, if you steal a car, like, the thing is to take it to a chop shop, right? Take it to a chop shop and then they get rid of the VIN number or something. So that seems very odd to me. That I wonder who stole it, who exactly stole it, and then, you know, technically, you don't really know if any of them stole it, or at least one of them probably stole it, but maybe the other ones didn't. But that's suspicious. 4 people sitting in a stolen car, and then you're in the back of the apartment complex, right? So 4 individuals are sleeping inside a stolen car that's at the back end of a complex.
These are some still photos. This is the officer who originally saw him with the firearm in his hand, calling it out. He runs through the dumpsters. This officer knows that there's another officer here that is going to ultimately encounter him when he comes through the dumpsters. So he makes him aware of that. He shouts out to him, "On your right, on your right." He's on your right. And that's where this individual comes out from between the dumpsters. This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene.
Okay, so that's Ryan Hinton Jr. right there. And then there was 5 or 6 shots that were shot. 2 of them hits him, and then ultimately they're going to prove fatal. And so that's not a very good end, right? He ran out of the vehicle, falls down, runs through the dumpster, and then as he's running away, it's clear that he's running away, but he's running away with a gun in his hand. So is there a deadly intent? I don't know. But if the officer gets close in on him, let's say that he was just running with a gun. Okay, the officer gets close in on him and goes to arrest him, goes to grab him. The guy doesn't turn around and shoot him. And then let's say he's getting closer and closer and it's, you know, further out in the woods or something. He doesn't fire a couple shots up in the air just to get the officer to back up. In the Wild West, if you pull your weapon, then there's lethal intent. The gun's already in his hand, so the gun wasn't holstered. And does that mean lethal intent? Not necessarily. Like, I really wanted to believe that Rodney Hinton Jr. was just so distraught over his son that got wrongly shot and killed by the police that he did this terrible, heinous, you know, this foul, evil deed. But no, it seems like the guy stole the damn vehicle. He's got a gun in his hand, And even though the police officer, if you listen to what he said, get the fuck down. And then they cut the video off right there. And so I wish they would show us the entire video, because what else are they talking about, you know? I mean, how do they talk? Do they talk like they, you know, care about life? Do they talk as if, okay, this one's down, now there's 4 other, you know, suspects? She said there was 2 cops on the scene. And so 1 police officer and another police officer, 2 are chasing 4. And so 1 guy's been shot. Now you have, what, 3 other folks that are just running out and about? And then they're eventually going to arrest 2 guys. 2 guys are going to get arrested. And so where's the, you know, 4th guy? This is a terrible ending. You know, this is a terrible ending to Ryan Hinton's life. He didn't immediately, you know, open fire. He does, you know, run. So his first instinct is to take off. His first instinct is to run away. So I guess technically they were all sleeping. They all could have woke up and then just started firing their guns and having a, you know, a shootout right then and there. But they all started running, so there was no shots. Nobody fired any shots. So I have to kind of say that the police are on the right. The guy, if you weren't stealing a fucking vehicle, if you didn't have a gun in your hand because you're stealing a vehicle, I would like the guy to chase the guy because the guy's running away. And instead of, you know, shooting at a guy who's shooting at you, he's shooting a guy who's running away from him. He shoots him in the side, shoots him in the back. But the guy had a gun in his hand. The guy was sitting in a stolen vehicle. If they could have, you know, just shot him in the leg and then removed the gun, you know, maybe there should have been more police that were on the scene. This is not a good way to go. But the guy was, you know, involved in crime.
As he approaches the scene.
So he's sitting there shooting the guy without the gun being pointed at him directly or without shots being fired at him. So that's the part that, you know, gets me. So even though I reluctantly say he's justified, I also say that he could have done things better. They all could have done things better. If they knew that the car was stolen and that there's 4 people at the, you know, apartment complex, why not roll up on the scene with 4 people? Shouldn't you at least it'd be 4 on 4?
Get the fuck down!
This is the firearm that was recovered at the scene after the individual was shot. This is what he handed.
So he's got a handgun and it's got a clip there. So, you know, how many shots is that? 10 shots or so?
His hand while the officers were taking it. This is a photo of it here at
It's a
criminalistic.
Glock, 40 caliber Glock.
Remember I told you he fell on the concrete and the officers said that they heard the metal hit the ground? There are 3 spots on here where this gun has scratches on it. We believe those occurred when he hit the ground with the firearm.
What type of firearm is that?
Semi-automatic. I don't know the make and model. This is a second. Sorry, Bobby, can you go back 1 frame, please? This magazine was in the firearm. That's an extended magazine, so it holds more rounds. Go ahead. This is a second magazine that was located in his sweatshirt pocket, his jacket pocket. And that is the magazine from that second magazine. This is another firearm that was located inside the stolen vehicle. This is a firearm that was also stolen out of northern Kentucky sometime yesterday, early yesterday morning. Approximately, we believe, based on timelines, this was stolen from a vehicle in northern Kentucky, and then they went on to steal the vehicle that's involved in the incident.
Do this 7 minutes a day until June. We start on Monday, May 5th. In a week.
So because we are still attempting to 100% verify the individual's identity, the individual who we shot, We're going to list him as John Doe until we can 100% verify that for you. The other 3 individuals that were in the car all ran. This was an extensive search for these individuals. I don't know if anybody's familiar with 2500 Warsaw. It is steep terrain, both directions from that parking lot, heavily wooded. They ran into that area in different directions, and we happen to have as hours of the day that we had several canines available and our drone operators available. So we deployed both of those, got some assistance from community members who were calling us, and we ultimately apprehended this gentleman as well as this gentleman. We still have another person we're looking for. We are attempting to positively identify him, and we'll continue to search for him. As you know, per Marcy's law, we're not going to reveal the officers' names, the officers who were involved, but here is their information. Been on almost...
Okay, so that's pretty much the whole story. You know, the grief of a father. You know, I like that Rodney Hinton Jr. loved his son Ryan Hinton. I don't like that he killed an innocent man, an innocent person, and ultimately, was it justified to shoot his son in the side and maybe a little in the back and ultimately kill him? He was sitting in a stolen car. Then it looked like they stole a gun or two, and the guy had, you know, 10 bullets in that gun, so they could have opened fire at first. They're all running. Maybe they didn't want a firefight. Was it okay to shoot and kill him? I think I have to say yes, because since the gun was in his hand, if the police officer was chasing him, the closer he gets to catching him, how easy would it have been to just turn around and shoot the guy? Some of the things that they said wasn't totally true. They were like, well, and then the guy started running at the police officer. Okay, he wasn't running at the police officer. Then I saw the gun, and the gun was pointed at me. No, not really. The gun wasn't pointed at you. The gun was in his hand. It wouldn't have took but just a second to point the gun. We need to have better culture when it comes to guns, because you have the Second Amendment, and the Second Amendment says that you're allowed to carry the gun outside of the home for self-defense. And so you need to have the gun holstered, you know, with carried concealed. Even, I guess, carried concealed is a little bit better, because if it's on your body, then it's not in your hands. If it's in your hands, then that's, you know, a tool that's meant to be used. And so I think that both of these guys are just completely wrong. And, you know, if the police are, you know, when it comes to Breonna Taylor, you can't get more fucking wrong than killing Breonna Taylor while she was sleeping. And then her boyfriend was, you know, basically a righteous boyfriend, and they were being broken into. He fired a shot because he thought that they were breaking into his house. So Breonna Taylor was totally justified, you know, was totally not justified. She was totally an innocent person. And then Sonia Massey. Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You better fucking not. Holy fucking shit. Like, goddamn, turn it down, you know. He went from 1 to 100 in 2.3 seconds flat. 1 second flat. So Sonia Massey is just clear and cut that she's completely fucking innocent. There's no reason that she should have been shot and murdered. She did not pose a threat. She wasn't acting belligerent. She didn't have stolen goods, stolen property. She didn't just finish assaulting anybody or raping anybody or committing any kind of arson or doing any kind of shooting or murdering or anything. So those are crystal clear cut, you know, and dry. And then a crystal clear and cut dry case would be if they're in the stolen vehicle, and when the cops come up onto the scene, they immediately start shooting, and then they fired back. So that would be crystal clear justified versus crystal clear unjustified. The rest is in between. The rest is gray. And so I would rather him not have shot the Ryan Hinton. I would rather him to have ran him down and chased him, or shot him in the leg, and then once he goes down, then to get the gun out of his hands. So, yeah, this shit sucks. This shit sucks. So the police did right. The police did good. The father's grief, instead, basically they stole somebody's vehicle, they stole they stole an innocent person's vehicle, they stole an innocent person's gun, and then he gets shot and killed, unfortunately, in the act of committing the crime, right? Why were they sitting in the damn vehicle? I don't understand why. There was 4 people sitting in the vehicle, and then later on, one day later, the father, Rodney Hinton Jr., is just going to run over a police officer who's directing traffic. He's just going to run some random police officer over. And then he's going to crash his SUV. And then he's in critical condition right now. So if he does live, then he's going to get, murder charges, aggravated murder charges. And those are correct, He wasn't in the shit at the time. It wasn't chaotic and crazy. Basically, he's, sitting in traffic, and maybe the guy, told him to stop or something, and it just pissed him right the fuck off. Makes me think of, are they a part of a gang, too? And what gang were they a part of? I wish they would speak more about the gang affiliations, because there's a bunch of gangs that's out there. You got, your notorious gangs, MS-13, Trinde, Aragua, Bloods, Crips, even I would consider Nazis a gang. Nazis and Confederates, those are gangs as well. And the point of knowing a gang is if they're a part of a gang, and it's almost like it goes to motive, right? It goes to motive. So Ryan Hinton, unfortunately, got shot and killed while he was doing some shit that he shouldn't have been doing. I would have liked the police officer to have apprehended him, to have arrested him in a better way, but he did need to be arrested. The guy did have a gun in his hand, so the officer would be justified. And then therefore the father running the old police officer over just because he was directing traffic and he was mad about his son getting shot and killed. I mean, they hurt a lot of innocent people. A lot of innocent people got hurt. An innocent person got their car stolen. The guns were stolen. And it's not really petty theft, right? That's some grand theft auto shit. And then Rodney Hinton Jr. is going to kill an innocent guy who was, not only just doing his job, but doing a peaceful job, you would think police officers, a lot of times you hear about them shooting and killing people, but it's nice to hear about a police officer doing shop with a cop. It's nice to hear about police officers helping people, giving people a ride, a motorist a ride to get some gasoline. It's nice to hear that police officers do good things, Yeah, they got to go get the bad guy or the criminal or the person that committed the crime. They got to make the arrest. They helping the old women across the street. A lot of times in cartoons, in old films, you'll see firemen who help older ladies get their cat out of a tree. It's nice to hear about cops doing those things. And so just directing traffic need to be directed. So basically, instead of going after the people that caused his son's death, he just, he just killed some guy who was on the street directing traffic that had nothing to do with it. He's part of, I guess, the gang of cops, the Cincinnati police. But, yeah. Cincinnati police justifiably shot Ryan Hinton when he said, "Get the fuck down, I didn't like that." And then I wonder what he said afterwards. Because if there's any racial animosity, right, you're just shooting dude because he's black. Well, that's some bullshit. You're just shooting dude because he's running away from you. That's bullshit. And then Rodney Hinton Jr., he unjustifiably killed a police officer. So